Bill Belichick may have gotten his quarterback.
Yes.
How about that?
The bill of fetid is already in session over at Carolina.
Ryan Browne from Purdue, out of the transfer portal. I have to be honest, a little underwhelming. However, and that's no disrespect to Ryan Browne. It's just when Bill Belichick takes over, you're thinking sizzle, you're thinking blockbuster, you're thinking
4-star, 5 stars.
Which future first-round pick is going to upheave their life from wherever they are and come and play for Bill Belichick? So Ryan Browne from Purdue, out of the portal, on his way to UNC. First of all, I think he's going to be a funny fit for Bill Belichick. Now, this is just, sometimes you get gut feelings about people, first impressions. I went and looked up the statement that Browne released when he told the world he was entering the portal from Purdue. It was 3 paragraphs. First paragraph, very standard. Coach speak. Thank you, love the university, talk to the coach, blah, blah, blah. Second paragraph, I'm going to read for you. As a redshirt freshman, I started 2 games against number 23 Illinois and number 1 Oregon this season. It was an honor to receive the prestigious Maxwell Award for National Freshman of the Week after our game against Illinois. Purdue has a history of great quarterbacks, and it was a blessing to know that I was the first to throw for 275-plus yards and rush for 100-plus yards in a game during my first college start. Pat yourself on the back, why don't you, little Ryan Browne? Just in case you don't know how awesome I am, I'm pretty awesome. It's kind of what it sounded like to me, especially because you're citing like the prestigious Maxwell Award for National Freshman. I don't know what that award is. Never heard of it. It was a blessing to know that I was the first to throw for 275-plus yards and rush for 100-plus yards in a game during my first start. Does that mean somebody else ran for 265? I don't know. 275 seems specific. I think Bill Belichick's going to have a fun time saying, hey, we'll just do your job and we don't cite individual statistics and no record. The other thing about this is if this is the plan at quarterback for Bill Belichick, like if he and Michael Lombardi, his GM, and his scouting department got together and over the past however many weeks have been combing through the portal and they zeroed in on Ryan Browne as their quarterback for next year, this is a heat check from Belichick. A heat Belichick, if you will.
Oh, okay.
See what I did there?
Nice little play on words.
Because this would not be, I think, the plan that many would go to if they had all of the supposed resources that are being pledged to UNC and they had the supposed momentum that UNC has with the coaching hire. This is him saying, I could go elsewhere. I could spend more money. I could get a more established player, but I don't want that. I want Ryan Browne.
I'm going to do things a simple way.
Because you don't know what I know, and that's that this kid has everything.
Almost like he knew what we didn't know in Tom Brady. Not saying that Ryan Browne's the next Tom Brady, but this kind of was what this reminds me of.
Well, that's the interesting part, right? I also believe, and this is, from being aware of Bill Belichick for the last decades and decades and decades, and following the sport closely, I don't think Belichick is somebody that will promise starting jobs to anybody. Like, you don't come out of the portal to UNC with a, like, hey, we're definitely going to start you. The most you're ever going to get out of him is we're going to give you a chance to compete and the best player will play, right? So there have been big names rumored for UNC, right? Would Quinn Ewers consider UNC? Would this guy consider UNC? Would that guy consider UNC? Belichick might be the only coach on the planet that could bring in Ewers and realistically tell Ryan Browne from Purdue, who started a couple games, hey, Ryan, if you beat out Ewers, you will be the starter. Most coaches don't have that kind of gall. Most coaches don't have that kind of intestinal fortitude that stick to their guns nature on their opinions because it's hey, if our collective spends $2 million for one guy and $200,000 for another guy, we have to see out the $2 million before we give the $200,000 a chance. I've seen it even on a lesser scale, right? Pre-NIL, if there was a scholarship guy and a walk-on guy, you knew the scholarship guy was going to get the first look, probably the first 5 looks before you look to the walk-on, because you're like, hey, We invested in him. We had a limited amount of resources. We used one of them on this guy. So let's go ahead and play him until we know he stinks. Then we'll go to the walk-on. Belichick can look at anybody and say, I don't care how much money we give this other. I don't care how much NIL promises they have. I don't care if they're on scholarship, you're a walk-on. I don't care about any of that. The best player will play. And if you don't believe me, Drew Bledsoe was on a $100 million contract. He was the highest paid player in NFL history. And I benched him for a 6th rounder. So if you want to show up and think anything's promised, this isn't the place. But that is also the only way in college football you're going to have depth. Right? Because if you start being the coach that whoever we give the most money to is going to be the starter regardless, then everybody who's not getting the most money at that position, deuces, I'll see you in the transfer portal because I don't have a fair shot. So there's 2 ways this works for UNC. Either Belichick is bringing in Ryan Browne to be the guy, in which case it's Bill Belichick saying, I'm smarter than all of you. I know what a good quarterback looks like more so than anyone else out there. Or me and my scouting department do. The option number 2 is Ryan Browne is coming here to compete, and I've told them as much, and we still plan on bringing in a bigger name, but because of my history, Ryan Browne actually believes me when I tell him he can compete. Still, he might be the starting quarterback for UNC next year.
And they saw the future in Bryce Baker, too.
Bryce Baker, the 4-star recruit who was, we don't know this for sure, but it seems like the very first call that Belichick made after taking over the job.
I feel like that was his first commitment.
He had to call, a family member, one of his sons, a daughter, and say, hey, I took the job. Next one, hey, Bryce. That's kind of how it was. Another bit of news on the UNC recruiting trail that their rival may be interested in. KC Concepcion, who played his first 2 years at NC State. His freshman year, freshman All-American, one of the best wide receivers in the country. Sophomore year, didn't live up to the hype. He's in the transfer portal. It has been reported by On3, who covers all of that Concepcion will be visiting Chapel Hill January 1st.
Man, could you imagine?
My first thought was Belichick might not get everything that happens in college football. He might not understand that we call it the 2-minute timeout, not the 2-minute warning. He might not have all the details. He understands how rivalries work.
From NC State's favorite player at one point in time, two seasons ago, to then NC State's most hated player.
If he goes to UNC, maybe. If he goes to UNC, maybe. That would test some... I host a Pack Therapy, the podcast. During football season, I co-host it with Mike Glennon. And Mike said, hey, Casey's on the way out, but he's still one of us. I would question that. I would say, do you still think that when if he laces up for the other side of this one? And Belichick has to be just that devilish grin, Casey. We just want you to be a good player. And we're not going to promise you
about the rivalry.
That's how it goes. That's how every conversation goes with Bill Belichick. I'm convinced.